Shalom, I am Cantor Galit Dadoun Cohen of Temple B'nai Or in Morristown, New Jersey. Parshat Vayera is rich with themes and stories. Here is the story of our first mother, Sarah, and her struggles with infertility. According to Torah, Pru urvu umal'u et haaretz, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, is a strong tenet in the biblical woman narrative. Women fulfill their traditional role of childbearers and nurturers. However, the Tanakh is filled with struggle stories of this complicated goal. I would like to explore this struggle through the presence of laughter in our story, the Hebrew root tzadi chet kuf, tzachak. Our parsha opens with Abraham standing in the front of his tent. It's a hot day, like it pretty much is every day in the land of Canaan. He's visited by 3 messengers. He invites them in, and he calls out to Sarah, his wife, "Quickly, make cakes," while he attends to the duties of the barbecue. We note that Sarah is not part of the conversation, but listening in the background. Often women are part of the conversation in the background and not actively participating. The messengers inform Abraham that Sarah is about to bear a child. Sarah overhears this news, and the Torah tells us that she laughs to herself. Vatitzchak bekirba. Is this a sarcastic laugh? Is it disbelief? Embarrassment, perhaps? So often the Torah is terse in the inner workings of the mind, and we do not know the feelings or thoughts of our heroines. The dialogue that follows is quite incredible. God asks Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh? Is it not possible that God is all-powerful and can make anything happen?" Sarah denies her laughter, and the Torah tells us that she's afraid. Does she dare to lie to the Infinite One? Maybe she's in denial. Fear can make people do and say senseless words, and sometimes not remember how things may have happened exactly. God proves to be almighty and says bluntly back to her, "Yes, you did." The scene is emotionally charged, and since we receive no clear indication, we can only interpret and reinterpret how this may feel for Sarah to be so exposed and in the face of God. Our tale returns to Sarah a year later when we learn she has now given birth. Abraham names the child Yitzchak, he shall laugh. In Hebrew, again, the root of laughter, tzadi chet kuf. Is this laughter of joy for Abraham, Sarah? We can only just imagine. Then Sarah says, "Tzchok asali Elohim, kol hashomea yitzchak li." The verse translates, "God has brought me laughter. Everyone that will hear will laugh with me." But as always, translation is the first layer of interpretation, and when looking closely into the Hebrew, one can also interpret that God has ridiculed me, or everyone will laugh at me. Her true innermost feelings are unclear. We can interpret this as joy and gratitude, and just as easily as sarcasm and narrowness of the eye and mind. Tzarut ein. We would think that Sarah's sense of fulfillment now be complete as she experiences the deep pleasure of motherhood. But is Sarah truly fulfilled? We know that when Sarah could not conceive, she asked the maidservant Hagar to conceive a child to Abraham to guarantee his continuity. When Yitzchak is weaned, a great feast is thrown. Sarah notices Ishmael, Hagar's son, metzachek, translated as playing. In Hebrew, it is a play on the same root of laughter. Ishmael is obviously enjoying being playful, probably unaware of the watchful eye of Sarah, who is so troubled by this sight. We know she feels threatened since she immediately tells Abraham to send Hagar and her son away. She won't have the son of the maidservant share with her son's inheritance. This seems like the quintessential act of jealousy. It is an act based in fear, and more importantly, this is a heartless act. She sends a mother and child out to fend for themselves in the desert. We can't help but wonder how she can be so heartless. Has she no empathy? Has she not suffered through her own experience enough? How can she impose such suffering on others? And how can she dehumanize Hagar and Ishmael for the sole purpose of guaranteeing the inheritance of her own son? The Torah often teaches us the right path and heartfelt action through role models that are highly flawed. Here we feel compassion for the one who is allegedly the stranger. We can more easily identify with Hagar. How can we feel empathy for the plight of Sarah? Ultimately, Sarah reveals a complex character that journeys through a life that renders her unfulfilled. The Torah grapples with women's sense of fulfillment, whether spoken openly or insinuated through their ability to bear children. Perhaps evolutionarily, women's basic purpose was to bear children, nurture them, and continue humanity. But Sarah acts in a way of dissatisfaction and ingratitude for all that she has. Maybe Sarah teaches us that there is more to her essence than the fulfillment of motherhood. Since we are observing and studying the story through the eyes of women in the 21st century, humankind has since learned endless lessons of the expression of womanhood. We learned that her heartless, selfish, jealous, and ungrateful behaviors may have been an inability to express her pain and be contained and understood by her environment. Her heartless, selfish, ungrateful behavior can be inability to express pain. A lesson to learn from Sarah is how to communicate our own hardship to others, how to seek out help and compassion when we need it, so that we can in turn be present, open, and empathic to the suffering of others. Toda Rabba.